From Del Rio, Texas, Rob Wade and Robert Garza. Two guys who dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive recorded Saturday, 15 September 2012. Episode 33. Oops, I did it again. Well, welcome to another episode of Two Guys Who Dive, and as you can see, it's just one guy who dived this week. Once again, unfortunately, Scuba Bob has been able to bow out. Had another engagement that came up. All I can say is I'm disappointed, and I'm sure you are too. But unfortunately, that's how it goes. Tried to get another guest to step in, but when I find out these things at the very last minute, it's kind of tough to square somebody away to be in the podcast, so it is what it is. But I'll do my best to carry the torch for the podcast anyway. The episode title this week is "Oops, I Did It Again," and we're going to be talking about, among other things, I'll be talking about the iPhone 5 announcement. And I'm sure there will be plenty of iPhone lovers out there, Apple lovers out there will take complete contention with just about everything I say. But I'll try to be as fair and honest as I can about it, given the fact that I do, it should be no secret now that I absolutely hate all things Apple. But that's okay. Everybody has their preferences, and it's a free market, at least until the socialists finally take everything over and they tell you exactly what you have to have to exist in this country, since they're already telling you have to have health insurance in this country just because you exist. That's just, our founding fathers, I'm sure, would be rolling over in their grave if they realized what was going on in this country right about now. But So some of the things we're going to be talking about, in addition to the iPhone 5 announcement, we also have a concert coming up in the local Del Rio area. If for those of you who are into the Christian music scene, contemporary Christian music scene, you may or may not be aware that I am a member of a local contemporary Christian band called Living Water Sound, headed by Rich Morneau, who happens to be a reserve Air Force pilot instructor out here at Laughlin Air Force Base, and so he's defending the country and training other pilots to defend the country. So it's a great service that he's doing. But in addition to that, he's doing an even greater service to God by taking the talents that he has as a singer-songwriter, musician. I would call him a psalmist, if you understand what that means, because he definitely does, the kind of music he writes would fit into that category. And I play keyboards, do backup vocals in the band. You may or may not be aware from previous podcasts, or if you follow me on Twitter or Facebook, that I also lead the praise and worship team, adult and the youth teams at our church, Grace Community Church in Del Rio, Texas. And so getting to do this season, I guess, of my life as part of Living Water Sound allows me an opportunity to do the same kind of thing, but in a different mode. Leading praise and worship at a church has a tremendous weight of responsibility to it, and there's a lot of work involved that focuses me a different way than I have to be as a member, not the leader of a contemporary praise and worship band or contemporary Christian music band. And I have a great time with these guys. They're all seasoned musicians. A number, some of them have histories like myself in the secular music world, doing, being in bands or concerts, that kind of stuff. And so it's kind of interesting to see what we're bringing to the mix here. But we've been doing a lot of gigs, going out with a number of headliners. We've headlined ourselves, but we're up and coming into the market, and so we've had an opportunity, the blessing to go out and open for a number of bands. We've done a mini tour with Fireflight. Love that group. The music they come up with is very hard edged. Probably some of the traditional, what I call blue-hairs from the theater. The more traditional types would probably find the music not to their liking, but it has the right message. It sets the right tone for touching youth that are interested in music, and touching them in a style that's popular even in the secular world, but it doesn't mean that you can't use that same style in the Christian music world. And so let me bring up, there we go. So we've got this concert coming up at the Del Rio Civic Center. It's called the Believer Tour, headlined by Kutless, an extremely talented and popular and a powerful contemporary Christian group. And then also Fireflight will be there as well. Looking forward to being on stage with them again, as well as Highland, who was here just a few weeks ago. So it'll be nice to see them again. And then, of course, the Rhett Walker Band and Eric Samuel Tim. And then, of course, Living Water Sound, which is the group that I'm in. As you can see from the poster here, and you probably, if you're in the Del Rio area, you'll probably see these posters around, and also the mini cards. So by all means, I mean, this is a $15 advance, $17 at the door. Not a bad price to see this much talent on the stage for one night, as well as just if you're looking to be in the middle of some serious, spirit-filled music, this is definitely a place to go. I mean, seriously, what are you going to do? So people will say there's nothing to do in Del Rio. Well, guess what? There really is a lot of stuff to do in Del Rio, and this is just one example. The local organization CART is working behind the scenes to make this concert happen. So we really appreciate the hard work that those folks do to pull concerts like this together, as well as supporting Christian activities and really supporting the youth around here. So by all means, if you're in the area, September 20th, it's coming up this week. We really invite you to come check it out, even if you just come by for a little bit of time. You don't have to hang through all the groups that are playing, but it'd be worth it. But you don't have to. You can come in, check it out, but definitely worthwhile. So come out and support these kinds of events. That's really what this town needs, what this country needs, is more of these types of events instead of stoner bands meeting places and just people freaking out and just wasting their time. So let's talk about the iPhone 5. Last week, or the week before last, Nokia had their announcement of their new Windows Phone 8 devices, and I have to say, I was super impressed with the new Lumias that are coming out, especially the 920. They've been able to roll in features of their PureView camera, which is really impressing a lot of people. Now, it's not the full-blown PureView camera, but it is, I would say, like the little brother to it, and it's amazing the shots that you're able to take with this. And I showed last week some comparative shots between the iPhone 4S camera, which has been argued to be the best smartphone camera out there, and showed how much better the 920 is. Now, we haven't seen what the images coming off of the iPhone 5 will look like. But they have, in the specs that they listed, they have shown or stated the improvements that they made to the camera. So, the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. By the way, that's the actual saying. You hear people say the proof of the proof is in the pudding. No, the proof in the pudding is in the tasting. That's what the actual phrase is. So, if you have an opportunity to correct somebody, that's a great little witticism, a little bit of trivia there for you. But anyway, there was a lot that was leaked well ahead, weeks ahead, months ahead on what the iPhone 5 was going to have. Now, you can debate all you want whether it was smart for Nokia to announce and Samsung, which announced the Ativ, which, if you don't know, the name is actually Vita backwards. So the Ativ was also announced a little bit before even the Nokia Lumia 820 and 920. And so you could argue whether or not it was smart to let those be announced before the iPhone 5, but I think probably it was smart in hindsight, only because what we knew about the iPhone 5, or what we suspected about the iPhone 5, was going to be not groundbreaking compared to the iPhone 4S, which was already kind of it sold well, don't get me wrong. I mean, it just flew off the shelves, and people, the iSheep are all over there, all over that. And they will be for the iPhone 5 too. They're people who they fawn all over Apple. They live for Apple, and so they are already lining up to. I guess it's already sold out as far as the pre-orders, so no big surprise there. But they'd buy anything. They'd buy a handkerchief from Apple if it was released. But the thing is, what we knew about the iPhone 5 didn't seem like it was going to be all that stellar. And so, again, I hate Apple. But I acknowledge what they do well, even if I don't like the stuff that they do. The iPhone 4S was a good phone. A decent smartphone. It was evidently not all that great as a telephone, but as a device, it was consistent. But of course, Apple is monolithic. They cradle to grave the whole thing as far as control. So there is no variation there other than memory. That's it. What you get is the iPhone 5. There is no iPhone 510 and 520. There's just the iPhone 5. Same with the 4S. They've just added things to it. By most industry standards, the iPhone 4S, the biggest thing that they added to that was some camera improvements and basically Siri. That was the big thing there. So, okay, big whoop-de-doo. Most people that I've talked to find Siri to be, as good as it is, to be annoying or a pain. I was getting into debate with one of the youth in our church, and of course he was just fawning all over the pending iPhone 5, and the announcement had been made, and I was among those who was disappointed in what we expected to hear about it. But of course he was like, oh, it's got this and got that. And I'm like, let's see, that's already been in the Lumia 900 that I have. That exists on other Windows phones, or if not mine, or it's already in Windows Phone 8. Not that big of an improvement. I mean, there were a number of things he was listing, and I'm like, there's nothing surprising. Well, Siri's better, which supposedly it is. Haven't seen it yet, but supposedly it is. And one of the other young ladies from our church came walking by, and she just announced that Siri's horrible, or Siri's a pain, or something like that. So it really comes down to what you expect out of it. I use some of the voice features in the Lumia 920, and supposedly, or the 900, and supposedly the 920 has even more expanded voice, just like Siri expanded its capability. And the Android phones have their equivalent as well. And each one of them have fortes in certain areas, but certain strengths. But so it comes down to how you use your phone. I prefer not to have a conversation with my phone. I prefer to. I guess the comparison would be the people who like Siri probably would like their computer to be like HAL, the HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I hear one of our dogs, Gianna, whining that she wants attention, so I'm going to add her to the podcast here. Here we go, making her appearance. There's Gianna. Isn't she adorable? Let me get a close up here. She's not tall enough to hit the camera there. There we go. Aren't you sweet? Yes. First time on film, right? Okay, so anyway, where was I at? Oh yeah, the capabilities of Siri are more in line with the HAL 9000 computer, very conversational compared to what's in Windows Phone, which I liken to more like the computer on Star Trek, which is really what I like. I like to be able to ask my computer things, to do something or give me information or to take a command, but not get in a conversation. I don't want to have a discussion with my phone. So I want something that's more efficient to simply do what I want to do, sans me using my hands to do so. So those are the differences in aspect there. All right, so improvements in Siri. But I kept waiting as I watched the comments and streams on the announcement. I was expecting some big surprise, some big thing that they'd kept secret the whole time while all this other stuff was leaked, arguably leaked intentionally, but it never came. No big, and we've got this. There was no big announcement there. And so I was looking at some of the different websites to get an idea for what the tech industry was saying about it, and largely it was not. They weren't. It's a great phone. They were all saying great phone, and they've held their own because they had to play catch up with a few things. With the iPhone 4S, they were missing a number of things that the other manufacturers and other Windows Phone and Android had already gone past and started adding. So this was their chance to kind of play catch up with some of the features that the iPhone series didn't have. But when it came right down to it, the specs on the iPhone 5 were solid, but not where they needed to be, or to really advance the iPhone. So I've got some websites here. I'll pull it up. Here we go. So what we've got is this is from CNET, and they kind of did a comparison between the iPhone 5, the Galaxy S3, which is flying off the shelves. Again, I'm not an Android fan. I prefer Android over iPhone, but the Samsung line of smartphones has kind of been feast or famine. I still have the Samsung Focus, the original Focus, which was the first gen Windows phone, and it was unique in that it had the expandable memory on it. And so I stuck a 32 gigabyte card in there, so I had 40 gigabyte Windows Phone, and loved it because I could put all the music that I wanted on there. Well, almost all the music I wanted on there, because I have a huge collection. My wife and I have collected music over the years, and we just have a huge collection. So couldn't fit everything on there, but a huge chunk. I could go anywhere, and it didn't matter if I had a signal. I could listen to music or watch video, whatever I wanted to do. But then some of the other Samsung devices have just been garbage, just plastic, and that's same with HTC and same with the other OEMs. They pump out a new phone every time you turn around. So some are decent, some are just to get a new device out with the new version, typically of the Android operating system. So, but the Galaxy S3 has, by all accounts, really grabbed the public's eye and has been flying off the shelves. It's really been selling well, and it's got some pretty hardy specs on it too. But so now the iPhone 5 was announced, and so CNET, among others, have kind of compared the specs, and so I thought it was pretty interesting to see what's coming out, what would be considered the flagships of the three ecosystems. Because basically, let's face it, RIM and BlackBerry is on the way down. They're crashing so hard. I looked at a chart the other day showing their sales, their stock, everything. I mean, it is just on a 45-degree angle of attack to bottom out. And meanwhile, the Windows Phone is modestly increasing, and it's due in large part significantly to the Nokia insertion into the Windows platform. But I was not expecting a lot out of the new Lumias, because I felt that they probably were rushing, because they just came out with the 900 and the 800. I thought they were probably rushing to get this out. And that may still bear out to be a little bit true, but what they showed was pretty impressive, because they had a lot of catching up to do. Not in necessarily features of the OS, but in features of the hardware. Now, I'm not a feeds and speeds kind of person. If the OS, if the operating system is good, then I think that it doesn't matter what kind of hardware you have, if you've really optimized the hardware that's the operating system's running on. And Windows Phone traditionally has. So anyway, here are the specs in comparison. You've got latest versions of the operating system on all three devices. Comparatively, now the iPhone series has been undersized by most standards. Most folks are going to the larger phones. My Samsung Focus seemed fairly large as a 4-inch screen, and now my 900 is a 4.3-inch screen, and it's noticeably better than the Focus, the original Focus. But the iPhone 5 now has caught up in size to my first generation Windows Phone with a 4-inch screen. Now, they've still got the Retina display, which everybody really seems to like, and it is a great looking screen. I'll give you that. But if you look across the board there now, Retina display or no, the resolution just isn't there. I mean, compared to the Galaxy S3, which has a higher resolution, and more even than either of those is the Lumia 920. And the CNET spec forgets to mention that the display on the 920 is their pure view HD. So it's and the images that I saw during the release, the announcement, were really impressive. It looks great. Pricing, one of the things that really disappointed stockholders for the Nokia was that who all would be carrying it, although we've heard more out about that now. In fact, for sure AT&T, that was not a big surprise there, but it seems like every other day we're finding another announcement of who's carrying the 920, and so it's going to be everywhere. The iPhone 5 will be carried on a number of carriers worldwide, but even though they kind of advertised they advertised it as a world phone, it's actually 3 world phones, because they can't quite put the right hardware that they need in just one device. So you can't just grab one made for the US and expect to use it everywhere on every, buy one unlocked and use it everywhere. You'd have to get one that has the hardware that makes it compatible with the carriers that you're going to be using it on. So that was a little bit misleading on Apple's part. But all of the companies kind of commit the sin of omission to some extent. That's just the way how they market it. Turn of phrase, terminology. Oh, let's play semantics with it. Okay, so it's going to be released September 21st, at least on the three AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon. The Galaxy 3S or S3 is available now, of course, and the 920 looks like it may be released in the U.S. on 21st of October. That's the rumors kind of floating around right now. iPhone finally catches up with the 4G LTE, which is already, I have that on my 900, so I've been able to enjoy LTE speeds for some time now, whereas iPhone is just finally catching up with that. The cameras, they supposedly have made some improvements. It's an 8 megapixel, 720p front facing. The Galaxy S3 has 8 megapixel, and then the Lumia 920 has an 8.7. It's got like I said, it's got that pure view technology, and that got that incredible stabilization capability because the design of the camera mechanisms. It's able to keep the shutter open longer, so your pictures in low light are dramatic over the competition. If you watched last week, I showed a shot that compared 4 different cameras, including the 4S, to the Lumia 920 night shot. It was just practically night and day difference, interestingly enough. Let's see. The processor on the iPhone 5 is the A6. They haven't revealed a lot about it. It's assumed to be a dual core, but we don't know anything else other than that assumption. We don't know speeds or anything. Those who've gotten to play with iPhone 5 ahead of the release say that it's noticeably snappier than the iPhone 4S, which is great. But it'll be interesting to see how it fares compared to the Samsung Galaxy or the Nokia Lumia 920. But basically what we're seeing here is there's nothing that really sets it apart now from the competition. Memory, it has an advantage of having the 3 memory sizes, which is pretty typical, but it's not expandable. The Galaxy S3 is got some memory options, and it is expandable. The Lumia 920 comes in 32 gigabytes, which is about time. One of my pet peeves about all the Windows Phone has been anemic storage. Of course, the argument has been and will continue to be whether or not you've got whether or not you're utilizing cloud storage, and that's great as long as you've got a high-speed signal somewhere. But you live out here on the border of Texas and Mexico, signal comes at a premium. Any kind of signal comes at a premium. So having 32 gigabytes on storage that's a sweet spot for me. I think I can deal with that. 1 gigabyte of RAM, which means that it helps the processing power. The 2 gigabytes on the Galaxy is pretty awesome. And the 920 is not expandable. Now, the 820, interestingly enough, is expandable. It does have a micro SD HC card in it, or slot for that. So I imagine this was probably a case of choosing to add the impressive camera optics or expandable storage. I think they went smartly. They went with the optics, because I've come to rely more and more on camera features. And if you got 32 gigabytes on there plus the cloud storage, I can deal with that. Battery life. The iPhone has, depending on who you are, has had a good battery life or not so good battery life. The iPhone 4S supposedly improved that because the thing was all battery, but it looks like they've had to shave off battery size, and so looks like 8 hours on 3G is the best you can hope for on the iPhone 5. The I'm not sure why they didn't include it. I think I saw another site where I know for sure the Lumia 920 has 10 hours in the same situation. I think the Galaxy has 13, but I could be wrong. But so comparatively the battery life on the iPhone 5 not nearly as good, and that means if you're using it in LTE, it's going to suck it down even faster. So even though it's got LTE, you'll be happier with the endurance on either the Galaxy or the Lumia. Still late to the party. No near field communication, no NFC on iPhone 5. While that is in the Lumia, the newer Lumia series, and also in the Galaxy. And the neat things that they were adding as far as the wireless or the NFC capability on Lumia were impressive, and the wireless charging, which is also not available in the iPhone 5. The wireless charging, and I've seen some more reports now since that show a number of manufacturers of various types of industries are really getting into the NFC. If you go over to Japan, people don't carry money. They have NFC in their feature phones. And so you just wave your phone, you put all your account information in to your device, and you just wave your phone in front of a vending machine, and out comes your soda or your candy or whatever. People aren't paying with money. They're paying with money. They're just not paying with cash or even a card. It's all on their phone. So NFC allows a lot of opportunities to do things, and so Windows Phone supports it, and the Windows Phone devices and Android supports it, and the Android devices have it, but still not on iPhone. Now, one of the really things that has been bragged about, and I think it's a plus for sure, is the new iPhone 5 is thinner and lighter. It's not the thinnest phone, contrary to popular comment. It is not the thinnest phone out there. There's another phone out there, and I forget the name of it, that is actually thinner. But it is tremendously lighter than the iPhone 4S. There is no doubt that the unibody design for the Lumia 920, just as it is for the 900, it's a hefty machine. It's heavier noticeably. If the weight of the device is important to you, then you definitely want to go with something with like the iPhone 5, because it is very, very light. Personally, having had the Focus, the Samsung Focus, and it was extremely light, but I want something, if it's going to be, especially if it's going to be thin, I want something with some that feels like I have something in my hand. I don't put a phone in my shirt pocket. I think that just looks stupid, but and I don't wear shirts that have shirt pockets. But the thing is, I like something that has some substantial weight to it. Not overly heavy, but I want to know that it feels solid, and I feel that the device is solid. Now, I was looking at some other sites just as examples. Let me pull up another one here. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, yeah. The Verge did their impression, or their review, shared their view of the iPhone 5, and I thought this is basically the typical response that most people in the industry, and even a lot of enthusiasts, although they'll still go out and buy an iPhone 5, have commented is basically it's meh. It's solid, it's a good phone. but it's no longer the standout. You know, you can the iSheep will say differently, but it's no longer the standout. It still doesn't have all the features that other phones are starting to have or have had for a while. Android has had a number of these features for a long time, and Windows Phone has quickly moved into those markets. But you know, they basically are saying that it's a predictable phone. I thought that was interesting, and I've seen this similar comments to this on a number of websites. Um, the prevailing opinion after the iPhone 5 announcement is that it's boring, but still pretty great, and that's not a bad thing to say. That just means that they've kept pace but what they haven't done is since the iPhone 4. You know, the iPhone 4S basically had the same kind of reaction. Again, it flew off the shelves because people will buy Apple just because it's Apple. But you know, when you have comments like, you know, boring doesn't quite encapsulate what's happening with the iPhone 5 though. The new iPhone is timid. Apple has taken very few, if any, real chances. It's a safe, pleasant 73 degrees, I think. And I think some of these highlighted comments are interesting. Thoughtful, beautiful, and wonderful, and a wonder of modern engineering, but it's not radical. The iPhone's UI basics have never changed. Basically, it's longer. So I hate a sea of icons, which is exactly what the iOS is. And so they basically added another row because they made the phone longer but not wider. So it's a longer phone to give it its 4-inch diagonal. Just enough to add another row of boring static icons. Apple doesn't seem to be willing to take any risk at all with the core UI of the iOS, which obviously Windows took a dramatic turn with theirs. Like it or not, they were more dramatic with it. Some of that old Microsoftian don't mess with success myopia seems to have affected Apple. And I would say that's probably true. So I think for the 6, they are going to have to get dramatic with it. I don't know what they feel like they could do because they may run into the exact same issues that the Microsoft folks did, because there were a lot of folks that actually did like the Windows mobile platform, and they felt that that Windows Phone was a few steps back. One of the things that they touted in this release, this announcement, one of the things that they touted in this announcement, and that they frequently say, is they brag about how unique they are, and of course they won a huge lawsuit against Samsung for the design of one of or a number of their smartphones that did seem to share a number of physical aspects that made them look very similar to the iPhone series. So the design of the iPhone 5 is no real departure from the iPhone 4S, the iPhone 4, but interestingly, for them to make the claim that they're still maintaining a unique design approach, etc., and set apart from all the others, I found it interesting that they also announced their new iPods. Now, here's where they did take some bit of a change, but what's surprising is, they look kind of like the Lumias. So if you look at the design of the new iPod Nanos, they really do. Matter of fact, if they were to take the Lumia 900, the cyan one, and put it up against this particular iPod, the colors would be so close that it would be really interesting to see. It would be very obvious. I thought this was interesting. At Apple, we value originality and innovation, and pour our lives into making the best products on earth. We make these products to delight our customers, not for our competitors to flagrantly copy, which was basically the argument that they made in the lawsuit against Samsung. And yet here they are. with something that looks, I'm sorry, that looks so much like the Lumia, it's not even funny. So they're not as original as they thought they were, at least when it comes to their other devices. So one more site I think I want to share. This again, these are some examples of the websites I've seen. Excuse me. I see a lot of these. Has Apple lost its creative spark? Has it lost its cool? In other words, why is Apple no longer seeming to be as innovative? The iPad is not going to look like it's going to take a dramatic turn either. They may come out with the Mini and some other sizes to compete against the Kindle, but that means they're competing against somebody. Instead of setting the mark, they're now competing. They're actually competing now because there is competition. But I just thought this was funny. This is obviously photoshopped or whatever, and they show that what they expect the big advances in the iPhone to be. So the iPhone 7 will still be as skinny, but it will be insanely long, and you'll have a ridiculous sea of icons. So the reaction among even the most diehard Apple fan to the release of the iPhone 5 has been rather tepid. And they just list some of the reviewers that show it's nothing innovative there, nothing, barely even renovative. So, the point is, and again, interest of full disclosure, I do not like Apple. I do own an Apple product. I do have one of their, I think the 4th generation iPod. What model is it? Do I even have it sitting out here? I think it's probably stuck in a drawer now. And I got it purely because it was really skinny and would be good to carry around if I'm, running or exercising or something. Because it's just for the music aspect of it. So I do own that. I haven't used it in several months now because I do it all on my Lumia 900. But the point is, the iPhone is the pre-orders have sold out. That's great. They're a solid phone. They haven't lost anything, but they haven't dramatically gained anything. So if you're an iSheep, then yeah, you're going to go out and get the iPhone 5. I think now the playing field is pretty level. Not because anybody has imposed a level playing field, hear that, Mr. President, but because competition has simply laid that out there. It has brought challengers to the market, and now it comes down to what you want to be able to do with it. There are some differentiating capabilities of one device over the other, of one ecosystem over another. And so it really is now your options are wide open depending on what you want to purchase. So if you're new into the if you're one of those roughly 50% of people who still have a feature phone and you're looking to get your first smartphone, I think you would do yourself well to at least check all 3 of those devices out. Don't get swallowed up into the iSheep mentality or the Fandroidism. Take a look at all 3 and see what they can do for you. Personally, I think because of where Windows desktop and laptops and tablets are going, you might find yourself more comfortable at least trying out the Windows phone simply because that ecosystem is going to be consistent across the platforms now. Whereas the Android actually shares currently more of a pedigree or a look and feel to Windows 7. Windows 8, Windows Phone 8 are virtually indistinguishable as far as the way they work. So I think it's worthwhile to check that out. So buy an iPhone if you must, but it ain't no big thing now. They're not that impressive anymore, in my opinion. The playing field is now level. You can get an awesome Android device or an awesome Windows phone, and probably be happy all the way around. The only thing as a last word that would probably be your deciding factor is, does the device have the apps that you want? Windows Phone has already got well over 100,000 apps. So for somebody to say, well, there's just not enough apps on Windows Phone, are you going to buy 100,000 apps? I think not. It comes down to, can you get the apps to do that you want? And I'm not necessarily a big fan of an app that is the quote-unquote official app. I've actually seen better third-party apps for different services or businesses than the original official app. A good example is the what is it? Foursquare, something like that. There's an app, a third-party app for Windows Phone called Fourth and Mayor that actually does a much better job of the check-ins and the sharing. It still hits the same system, but it does a better job of it. And then there's just a number that are like that. So enough about iPhone 5. If my co-host, Scuba Bob, Robert Garza, were actually here, we'd be getting into this debate. But, he had other things he had to do, and darn it, he just didn't bother sharing that with me soon enough so I could get lined up. I probably would have postponed the discussion on the iPhone 5. So he'll probably comment on about it for next week, but we'll see what happens. If you haven't been living under a rock, you've probably noticed that there's been a lot of unrest in the Middle East. Seems like every time we turn around, another one of our embassies is either being protested or attacked. And unfortunately, we had suffered the loss of Ambassador to Libya, Christopher Stevens, and 3 of the other members. And we're now finding out that it looks like that attack was planned well in advance, that it was... I find it unconscionable that our government, this administration has seen fit to try to play this off as if it's. They keep saying a film sparked this. First of all, a YouTube clip, a poorly made YouTube clip, is not a film. That is disingenuous and bordering on incompetence to make that claim. And, oh, by the way, the clip that they referenced in saying that this was the spark for all this has been out for a long time. All of this started on the anniversary of 9/11. That should be pretty obvious what's going on here. This is not... this is nothing other than radicals who hate the United States, hate our government, hate our way of life, and they're rising up. This isn't going away. This has been going on since colonial days. If you're a student of history, you may be aware of the Barbary Coast, the Barbary Coast pirates. Those were Islamic terrorists. They had ships that went up and down the Barbary Coast, and they would chase down. They have very fast and powerful ships, and they would chase down merchant ships carrying cargo back and forth between the United States and Europe, because we had tremendous trade. And they would board them and capture the crews, capture the ships. They would enslave the crews. And actually, back then, Great Britain and some other countries had a deal going with the Muslim states at that time to basically get them to keep attacking our ships, because we were really winning the trade war. We had new materials, new crops, etc., that everybody wanted. So we were like China back then. We had a glut in the market. And so this has been, and eventually we actually built our own Navy. We didn't have a Navy at the time. So once we got a Navy, we went over there and we whooped up on him. And we said, no, we signed treaties, etc., to settle this. But this is not a surprise. They have been going after Western states, Western countries, for a long time. So it should not be a surprise for anyone to recognize that this is just more of the same. So now we've, on top of all of this, we've got Iran, who is now even closer to having their own nuclear weapons, and we're not doing anything about it. Meanwhile, we have Israel, our partners, who are surrounded by these nuts, by these crazy people, and they're in danger. And they're not gonna sit back. They will do what's necessary to step up. What I hope is that this country is going to stand with them. We're not going to continue to sit on the sidelines, but it's very dangerous what's going on over there. Now, what does that have to do with diving? Well, if you're a diver, there are some tremendous locations to dive over in the Middle East and in Europe. And if you're thinking of doing some traveling over there, this is probably growing into a time you may want to think of other places to go. There are things going on now in the world that make dive travel more dangerous than it used to be. There's even stuff going on between China and Japan. There's disputed islands there. And so you got warships kind of gathering around and posturing, and it's crazy. I have to admit, I'm glad we have the Gulf Coast here. We have the Caribbean here, because at least for now, it seems like that's the safer place to go diving is in the Caribbean. You know, my wife and I went to Curacao last year. Loved it. We're thinking about going to either Cayman or I think Belize next. But you know, where there are a lot of folks that used to go to the Mediterranean and go to, you know, places around the Middle East to dive on some really awesome sites. It's just getting more and more dangerous over there. You know, the radicals, the Islamic radicals, the terrorists they're gaining strength. The Muslim Brotherhood is really, they've got their fingers everywhere now. So it's just getting dangerous over there. You know, and with Egypt and Iran getting cozy now, I don't know. We may be looking at a dramatic turn for the worst over there. If we thought our military was spread thin now, probably is time to think about reallocating our warriors, get them ready for whatever this next step is going to be. It's not looking good over there. And, oh, by the way, if you haven't noticed, gas prices have dramatically risen as a result of that. So that's going to impact dive travel. So you're going to have more and more people, I think, doing the whole staycation thing as a result. So it's getting pretty dicey out there, and it's causing issues on the home front too. You know, we still rely a lot on foreign oil, so that doesn't help the situation as far as affording dive travel. Let's see. Oh, we've got the as we start to wind down here. I sent last week we talked about how I'd gotten a text from one of my former students where about a cleanup by kayak that was being I guess talked about or shared on the website for the city of Del Rio out at San Felipe Creek. I've gone down diving out there a number of times, and also we've done some cleanups when the previous mayor and his wife were at the helm, and they were big fans of doing. They really had a heart for keeping the city cleaned up and nice looking. Not so much the current regime hasn't done squat really. But when I saw there was something about that, a cleanup at the creek, I thought, okay, great. Maybe they're kind of getting the ball game. So I sent an email to greencity at cityofdelrio.com asking for specifics. I saw this on the website about the cleanup by kayak. Is this just a general program that you're trying to do, or do you have specific dates in mind? Because I'd like to get local divers involved in that, because I think it would be great as a diver to be able to go out and instead of having to drag stuff all the way back to shore, be able to cruise along, and then there was one of the kayakers there and toss stuff up in the boat and have them shuttle it back and forth. That'd be a great little partnership going on. Have yet to receive a word. So as soon as we get something positive or negative from the city, we'll be sharing that. But in the meantime, we do have our next dive club meeting is on the 20th of September. I will not be there because if you remember earlier in the podcast, we have the Believer Tour going on at Civic Center. So depending on how, well, I take that back. I might be there because we're the opening act. It starts at 6:30. So if I can get Scuba Bob to actually show up and head the meeting, start it off, we may get there late. So we'll be doing the concert, and hopefully I'll be able to tear down quickly and load up my gear and head over to Rudy's Restaurant on September 20th at 7 o'clock. I'll try and get there, maybe be able to get there by 7:30 and share the meeting with everybody. Also, we have Trash Fest 2012 on 6 October, New Braunfels, Texas. Again, you need to sign up quickly. They're quickly running out of time. They will not be accepting registration at the venue, so you'll have to register ahead. So go to their website. And the DEMA show for 2012, that's the Dive Equipment Manufacturers Association, meeting 14th through the 17th of November in Las Vegas. And, of course, we have picked out some dates for next year for the Balmoral State Park. So that's 17th through 19th of May, 14th through the 16th of June, 19th through the 21st of July, and 16th through the 18th of August. So as we said before, if you want one of the cabins there, you need to get on the books now. Those go quickly. If you just plan on camping, you can get those a little bit later. We did those at the actually start of the year for this year, and we were able to get campsites for the most part. We got one cabin that was left for just so happened to be for our anniversary. So as a matter of fact, look, it's on our anniversary again. So get in there, get to the website, and sign up. We'd love to see you there. One last thing. The lake just keeps on dropping. It's dramatic how bad it's getting. You probably saw, hopefully you saw our night dive last night, but when I went out there and got my eyes used to the darkness, it was still dramatic to me how things had dropped. And somebody had posted on Facebook a neat picture of Castle Canyon, which is so far my favorite place to dive in Lake Amistad, had posted a picture of Castle Canyon. And so let me switch pictures here. There we go. That is Castle Canyon, how it looked before the lake filled up. And this is impressive. And we've gone diving almost to the bottom of that because I recognize some of the formations from actually diving in it. So this is what you have to look forward to as far as diving. If you get with us on a dive to Castle Canyon, this is and it's much longer than this, but this is just one section of it. But this is what you can expect to look at. Pretty impressive. And another place that we've gone diving on before is Evans Creek, which is you have to go past Castle Canyon in order to get there. And this house is there, and typically I've been diving on it when it was 40 feet underwater. And so here's a picture of it from several years ago where it's out of the water. And I think now, we'd have to get a boat to see, but I think now this is well up on dry land. I think I saw a Remax sign on it or something. But here you could ride a jet ski through these pillars, and I've done that before when it's been exactly this low. But it's really fun to dive on it. There's more to it than that, but this is just the main house area. But these are the kinds of things that when the lake is up that you can dive on. It's pretty impressive to be swimming through it and realize this was all out of the water at one time. All right, so it's 9:06 in the evening. Do you know where your divers are? So again, two guys who dive with just one guy who dives this week. Hopefully we'll be back in the swing of things next week. Depending what's going on, we may be postponing next week's to Sunday night. My wife has got she's big into scrapbooking, and she does some wonderful stuff with that. But they have conventions or shows where you get to get all the scrapbooking enthusiasts together, and there's vendors, and you can buy lots of the equipment and tools and supplies that scrapbookers use. Kind of like going to a Star Trek convention, but without all the really wild costumes, which I love those. But so she's going to be going to that. But depending on schedules, etc., she may not be going for the whole weekend. I may be going traveling to San Antonio and San Marcos with her on Saturday. So if that's the case, probably won't be back in time to hit the podcast, so we may have to postpone it to Sunday night. But we'll post that on the Facebook page and on the website. But definitely check out the Facebook page. So you can check us out at www.delriodiveclub.com, or you can go to Facebook/Del Rio Dive Club. And, of course, you can follow me on Twitter at RobertCFP, or send me email at robert.wade@setifox.net. And so that does it for another episode of Two Guys Who Dive. We will see you next week.